The Indigo Disk is finally out, and a lot of old returning Pokemon got some amazing buffs. Today, we're talking about Metagross. Let's go. I'm a bit tardy to the party talking about the Indigo Disk and starting that coverage, but I've been playing the Indigo Disk trying to catch up. But, anyways, it's finally time to talk about some of the returning Pokemon, and who better to start with? Metagross. Metagross is one of my favorite Pokemon. It was an absolute menace in the Generation 8 Dynamax format, and honestly, it's probably going to be incredibly strong with Generation 9 thanks to terrestrialization as well. As far as Metagross's stats go, we have 80 HP, 135 attack, 130 defense, so it's an absolute physical beast right there. It's got 95 special attack, 90 special defense, and 70 speed. Metagross can play slow or fast if you want to. It doesn't really matter if Trick Room or Tailwind is up. Metagross is there. It's going to tank hits, and if you wanted to make it incredibly beefy on the specially defensive side, the Assault Vest is definitely an option as well. As far as Metagross's Steel Psychic typing goes, it's immune to poison. It has a 4 times resistance to Psychic, and then it has 8 regular resistances to Ice, Rock, Steel, Fairy, Dragon, Normal, Grass, and Flying, while only having 4 weaknesses to Fire, Dark, Ghost, and Ground. So, some Terra options that we could probably go for in Metagross is Terra Fire to make sure that we are immune to burn. We can go Terra Grass to make sure that we are not going to be put to sleep by Spore. We could go Terra Steel or Terra Psychic to double our stabs. Or if we wanted to, we can do the brand new Terra option of Stellar. So Stellar here basically keeps your typing the exact same, and it's more of an offensive geared Terra. If you wanted to think about it, it's probably the equivalent of Gigantamax to Dynamax for terrestrialization. So Stellar gives you a one-time boost to each type option as far as your moves go. It's only a 1.2 times boost, but the trade-off here is every single one of your moves gets boosted once. It's like you have ammunition that you're just basically firing off once per round. And on top of that, if you go for Terra Blast while Stellar, you are guaranteed to land super effective damage against Pokemon that are already terrestrialized. Now, this can be really big, and honestly, in raids, that can be really nice as well. So, because Metagross has such a great defensive typing, you could potentially make a case for Stellar if you wanted to run Terra Blast on it. So, just keep that in mind. As far as Metagross's abilities go, we have Clear Body, which prevents our stats from being lowered by the opponent, and then we have Light Metal. This ability is garbage. It's useless. It only halves your weight, and we do not want to do that because one of the big brand new buffs that Metagross got was access to Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam does more damage the heavier the user is against the target. So Flutter Mane, bye-bye. Metagross is 1,200 pounds. It's going to be hitting a lot of things pretty consistently with Heavy Slam. And Heavy Slam is going to be a great steel type option to have for Metagross. It's a little bit more powerful than Iron Head against most things. It's more accurate than Meteor Mash. On top of that, Metagross did get a brand new steel type coverage move in the form of Hard Press. So Hard Press is one of those moves, kind of like Eruption and Water Spout, where the more HP the user has, the more damage it does. Now, the physical moves like this tend to be a little bit weaker than the special variants. The special variants tend to cap out at base 150, and to my general understanding, I'm pretty sure Hard Press caps out around 120, but I could be wrong. I haven't tried out the move or looked into it very much, but that is a brand new steel type coverage option for Metagross to use as well, which could be relatively nice at the end of the day. Now, another coverage move, or rather another stab move that Metagross got access to, which is going to be a huge buff, is Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs here destroys screens, and it's a nice physical psychic type option for Metagross to use. And basically here we don't have to rely on Zen Headbutt with the 90 accuracy and 80 power. We have a base 85, so we're already stronger, and a base 100 psychic type attack right there. So Zen Headbutt, there's no point in running that anymore unless you really want to play with flinch strategies, but honestly, I don't really see the point of doing so on Metagross. Now, another nice little thing we got here was knockoff. Everyone and their mother essentially got access to knockoff in the Indigo Disk, and man, I am very happy to see it. Base 65, dark type coverage that removes the item and does bonus damage when it does remove the item. Yes, please. That is a nice thing to have on Metagross. And then another nice little move that we got access to is Trailblaze. While it is weak and only base 50 power, like I said in the Haxorus video, this does increase the speed, and once Metagross gets a little bit of speed there, that's going to be relatively nice. I feel like Trailblaze should not be overlooked when you're building around Metagross. And then one more really awesome move that Metagross gained access to, and I don't know if it had access to this in previous generations, but one thing it does have access to in Generation 9 is Hone Claws. Hone Claws here raises your accuracy one stage while also increasing your attack. Maybe you don't necessarily want to run Heavy Slam because of the slight damage inconsistency based off the weight mechanic. Maybe you want to run Meteor Mash, which was originally Metagross's signature move when it came out. It's 90 power, 90 accuracy, and it also has a 20% boost or 20% chance to boost your attack stat one stage. Maybe you want to run Meteor Mash and go for those RNG odds. Well, you can go for the Hone Claws to make Meteor Mash significantly more accurate, which is going to be incredibly fun because you might get lucky with that 20% boost and increase your attack as well. Metagross also gets access to moves like, say, Rock Slide, which 75 power, 90 accuracy. It gets access to Stone Edge now as well. So base 100 power, 80 accuracy. That's going to be really nice. And then another inverted buff to Metagross here is the introduction of Ting-Lu. Ting-Lu's Vessel of Ruin lowers the special attack of all Pokemon on the field. It brings it down to 75% of what they would normally be. So that's essentially a free Assault Vest for Metagross, which is really nice. Now, Ting-Lu and Metagross, while they can be a really strong power couple right there, you do have to worry about Urshifu Single Strike. Urshifu Rapid could be a little bit annoying too, but Urshifu Single Strike could, in theory, ruin their day because Metagross is weak to that Dark type Wicked Blow, and Ting-Lu is weak to close combat, and Terrestrialization only works for one Pokemon. So if you're worried about that combination, there's your out on how to deal with them. So that is a nice thing right there for Metagross. And then one last big buff is coaching. Coaching is back as a TM, and a fair amount of Pokemon get access to it. Blaziken gets it, Cinderace gets it, Cobalion, Emboar, the Hitmon, Lee, and fellow Hitmons get it. Iron Valiant gets it. Keldeo gets it, but we won't be really seeing Keldeo in VGC. Scrafty gets it. Terrakion gets it. A lot of fast Pokemon get it at the end of the day. That's what I'm trying to get out of me. A lot of fast Pokemon get it. And on top of that, Riolu at one point did have it. Let's just double check. I saw Lucario has it. Does Riolu get it for access to the Prankster? It does. So right there, Prankster coaching Riolu can be back as well. So that's another huge buff for Metagross as well, is the coaching support, because coaching is a free bulk up to your partner. And then there's one other move too that's similar to coaching that I feel like I should address as well, because this is probably going to be a fun move to see later on, and that is Dragon Cheer. So similar to coaching, whereas it targets your partner, Dragon Cheer is basically a focus energy for your partner. Now, if your partner isn't the dragon type, they only get a +1 ratio to the critical hit modifier, but if they are a dragon type, they get a +2 modifier, which is huge. So you could definitely look into some critical hit strategies that way, especially where Metagross does have the Stone Edge and Hone Claws combination at its disposal now. So let's talk about some sets. So this first set here that I was thinking of is an Assault Vest set for Metagross, and what we're going to do here is we're going to go max HP to bring our HP points up to 187. We're going to go 212 EVs into our attack with an Adamant Nature to hit 200 attack, and then we're going to put the remaining 44 points into our special defense to hit 116, and thanks to the Assault Vest giving us a 1.5 boost to our special defense, we're actually looking at about 174 right there. We're running Terrifier on this Metagross to make sure that we're not burned, and it's also going to help us get around both Chi-Yu and Fluttermane will be able to resist Chi-Yu's fire-type attacks, and we should be able to bounce around the odd dark type attack that comes our way once we terastallize away from the psychic typing. Now, as far as the Fluttermane matchup goes, I was thinking we can get around that in two different ways, and that is the form of Heavy Slam for just raw damage, or Bullet Punch if they go Terra Fairy, because, Priority Steel goes brr against puny fairies with glassy physical defense. So what we're going to do here for the damaging options here is we have the Heavy Slam to make sure that we can get some good steel type coverage out there. We have Knockoff to remove items from our opponent, especially any pesky focus sashes or choice items. We have Psychic Fangs to get around screens, and Aurora Veil to make sure that our opponent cannot get bulky. Alolan Ninetales, your time is up. We have the Psychic Fangs to break your screens, and then we have the Bullet Punch to remove you as well. And then on that note, we have Bullet Punch to handle the faster Pokemon that Metagross just cannot outspeed under Trick Room. Now, I have this currently with max IVs into our speed at 90, but we could easily go a 0. And then if we wanted to use this Metagross on a Trick Room team, we could change that Adamant nature up to a Brave nature, and that would drop us down to 67. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that is still faster outside of Trick Room than both forms of Urshifu as well as Amoonguss. So under Trick Room, that could be a little bit spooky. So you might want to proceed with that and just err on the side of caution. Now, if you didn't necessarily want to run the Bullet Punch and Heavy Slam together, you could take one of those two moves out, and you could run Earthquake if you wanted to. That's some great ground type coverage there. You could also run the Ice Punch for grass types or fire types that want to turn into the grass type, and then that way you do have access to that Ice Punch as well. Now, I was originally going to say you have the Ice Punch for the Amoonguss, but the Psychic Fangs, the Psychic Fangs are going to be very nice on Metagross, because Metagross can just use those to chow down on the Mushroom. Now, you do have to be careful about Brute Bonnet, which is a grass dark type as well, so it would be naturally immune to having the Psychic Fangs go that way, but you could run Body Press. Metagross's base 130 defense stat is nothing to scoff at, even without any investment, and because Body Press uses the defense stat to calculate the amount of damage, that's going to be relatively nice, because the other thing I was thinking of doing for this Assault Vest set is if you take a quick look at the stats, we're at 200 and 150. We could pair this with a coaching wand like, say, Riolu, or one of the naturally faster Pokemon that get access to coaching, and then naturally get a free +1 into our attack and our defense. So a +1 attack on Metagross would be sitting at 300 points, and a +1 defense would be sitting at 225. This Metagross is going to be incredibly bulky, and it's going to live a lot of hits. Now, you do have to be careful about haze, so you might want to have a taunt setter on the team, or maybe even just bring a Tornadus, since you have access to both Tailwind that way as well as taunt. But that's what I was thinking for this first bulky Assault Vest set. And also, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you could run Ting-Lu next to it as well. Anyways, let's move on to another option. Our second set here is going to be a boosting Metagross set, and we have a couple of different ways of boosting up our stats. We could run Hone Claws to boost up our accuracy and our attack, which Metagross has plenty of moves that would benefit greatly from having their accuracy increase, such as Meteor Mash, Rock Slide, and Stone Edge, all of which are good hard-hitting attacks. Or we could run a weakness policy set and then have Metagross get a free +2 by hitting ourselves with a super effective attack, and we definitely have plenty of options to do so. Metagross's steel typing means it can be an excellent member on a sand team, which is why we're going to bring up Houndstone here. Houndstone has Sand Rush, so it can double its speed, and it also has access to Bulldoze, which not only slows down the field, but it also procs Metagross's weakness policy, while also not lowering Metagross's speed thanks to clear body. So basically we can slow down the field if we wanted to with Houndstone, and then Metagross could get a weakness policy boost that way. Or if we wanted to play with Hone Claws, we could run Tailwind and Tornadus. Unfortunately, we don't get access to Brutal Swing on Tornadus anymore, but Tornadus can still provide some useful speed support thanks to Tailwind, and it could taunt any Pokemon that might try to threaten a non-Terra Dark Metagross with a Prankster status move with Taunt. So we could do something like that as well. So what I was thinking as far as the EVs go, we're going to go max HP to try to get as bulky as possible while divvying up the rest of the EVs between our attack, speed, defense, and special defense. So we only have 116 EVs into our attack to hit 170, but the main point here is we're going to be increasing our attack either with Hone Claws 1 stage or our weakness policy by 2 stages. So that's why we're not going as heavily invested into the attack. We have 1 extra point into our defense to bring us up to 151. We have 44 EVs into our special defense to bring us up to 116, just to try to get a little bit of bulk. Now, Metagross would definitely appreciate either coaching boosts to the attack and defense or light screen and reflect support. So you could definitely consider running those next to Metagross as well. And then we have 92 EVs plus a Jolly Nature to hit 112. Now, if we're playing with Metagross under Tailwind, this will allow us to outspeed base 150 mons and slower under Tailwind, which is going to be incredibly huge. The faster Pokemon seem to get, the frailer they seem to get, so having Metagross have that bulk and hard-hitting attacks and just that right amount of speed to become a threat is going to be relatively nice. So we could do that. And if we're running a weakness policy set, what we could also do for a little bit of extra cheese, especially with the Houndstone and Bulldoze, is we could take out Hone Claws and replace it with Trailblaze. And then that way we have a guaranteed speed boost that way too. So Metagross goes up +1 and then +2 into its attack. When that weakness policy goes off, everyone else goes down a speed stage, and then Metagross just pounces. Unfortunately, Metagross doesn't get pounced, but you get the idea. And honestly, I think that could be a really funny, trolly way to mess with people. And plus, it's a great option. Now, if we didn't want to run a weakness policy, we could run a Citrus Berry to get a little bit of HP back. We could go for a Life Orb to synergize, especially with a Hone Claw set, a little extra firepower with that. We could also run an Expert Belt if we wanted to, and then that way our super effective attacks are doing a little bit more damage with the Expert Belt, or we could throw something else on there. Honestly, a Lumberry doesn't look too bad if we wanted to keep our Steel or Psychic options for a Terra and then double that way. So a Lumberry could be great for removing burn, paralysis, or even sleep. I don't know why that was so hard to get out of me, but maybe it's because I'm a little bit tired myself. But anyways, that's what I was thinking for this second set for Metagross. Our third and final set on this Metagross here is going to be a Iron Defense Body Press set, because I would be a fool to overlook that base 130 physical defense stat and access to Iron Defense. Metagross has the means of becoming an absolute menace of a physical wall, thanks to its great bulk in the HP and defense stat. So what we have as far as the EV breakdown goes is max investment into our HP, and then an Impish Nature with 156 EVs into the defense to bring both stats up to 187 points. We have 76 EVs into our special defense to hit 120, and then the remainder of the EVs are divvied up between the attack and speed stats. So we have 20 points into the attack stat to bring it up to 158, and then we have 4 points into the speed to bring it up 1 extra point to go up to 91. So what we're going to do here for the set is we have Protect to keep ourselves alive. We have the Iron Defense to boost up that Body Press. We have the Body Press to nail things incredibly hard so long as they're not ghost types. And then we have Bullet Punch to get around Fluttermane, who is significantly faster. So if they go Terra Fairy Fluttermane or they just stay base Fluttermane, that Bullet Punch is just going to ruin their day if they're not holding a Focus Sash. And on top of that, we also have the Bullet Punch to pick off any other weakened Pokemon, and plus it's going to make Qing Pao's day a little bit worse. Chi-Yu's going to laugh at the Bullet Punch, but it's not going to laugh at the Body Press. But anyways, we have the Bullet Punch to hit Qing Pao as well, and plus that way too, if our opponent is rocking a Qing Pao, well, the Sword of Ruin is going to lower their partner's defense as well. So depending on what it is, Metagross is going to hit them incredibly hard. What I was thinking of doing with this Metagross is pairing it with either a redirection friend guard Pokemon like say Mousehold or Clefairy, and then that way that reduces the overall amount of damage Metagross will take from hits, or we could put Ting-Lu next to Metagross, and then that way we're basically getting a free Assault Vest, and then Metagross is now going to be laughing at the special attacks as well. And what we could do if we wanted to is we could run Terra Steel just to make sure that we have a great defensive type while having Bullet Punch, is that weird? While having Bullet Punch increase its power, and then that way making up for the lack of attack investment. Or what we could do is we could run Terra Fighting on Metagross so that Body Press gains Stab, or if we wanted to, we could run the Stellar Terra type, and then that way we keep our exact defensive typing while also getting a one-time boost to both Body Press and Bullet Punch. So that is an option as well. Anyways, guys, that's my main thoughts on this newly buffed Metagross this generation. Be sure to let me know what you think of it down in the comments below.